Hello, and welcome back to the Recreant Journals. I'm your host, the Recreant. How are you? I certainly hope you're doing better than those featured in today's stories. Today I have for you two true camping horror stories. Enjoy. Embrace the dark side. I was camping in a valley by myself with no cell service. I was staying late on this really famous trail and ran into a nice local as it was getting dark. The guy had showed me a local camping spot close to the road where the river was, but a bit more cloaked as far as visibility was concerned. When I asked him how did he know about it, he told me he found it with his father back when he was a boy. Thus, I set out for the camp spot. That evening, I had a fire, drank some beer, and listened to my friend's comedy podcast. I was loud and very visible to all in the woods. As I sat enjoying the nighttime ambience, I couldn't help but notice a lot of rustling. I believed it to be an animal of some kind. When I then shined the flashlight in the direction of the footsteps, they would stop. This went on for some time, and I then decided to spend the night in my truck and not a tent. By morning, I made a fire, breakfast, and cracked another beer. It was a little while later that I noticed a man at the edge of my campsite. Not the one from before, as this one looked homeless with a disgusting beard and tattered clothes. I comment on various things to try to get this man's attention, but the man says nothing. So, instinctively, I offer him food, but he just turns around, like back facing me. I then hear the man mumbling something incoherent, and I'd like to take this time to say I had my buck knife on me, but I didn't think I'd have to use it. Then suddenly, I noticed the knife in this homeless man's hand. He lunged at me, and I struggled a bit. I had no idea how such a scrawny guy could be so strong. I began to fear for my life, when suddenly I heard a loud I looked up to see the psycho was shot. I then hurried all my things into my truck, and I drove off. To this day, I don't know who saved me, but I will never go camping there again. Are you afraid? In the summer of 2020, I went camping in a popular national park with my dog, Lucy. Lucy was a German Shepherd. We had enjoyed the beautiful ambience together. The birds chirping, the calming wind, and the scenery were a relief from the craziness brought on by the pandemic. However, one day as me and Lucy hit the trail, I had noticed how much quieter things got the further we went. I even noticed Lucy acting strangely as she kept turning back and yelping. I knelt down to her, rubbing her head and trying to calm her. I then decided to take more pictures of the area and then press on up the trail. Now, I'm not a wildlife expert, but the eerie silence was indeed unnerving to me. No birds, deer, or squirrels. Heck, I didn't even see any insects. At this point, one particular part of the trail, I noticed that the trail split into two. One way headed toward the river, and another way up the mountain. Lucy instinctively began tugging on her leash to go to the direction of the river, but I wanted to go up the mountain. As I tugged her leash, she began whining and yelping, and so we took a break on the bench as I tried to reassure her. Lucy, however, began to act crazily. She began barking and yelping, tugging her leash, and pulling it back down the trail. I scolded her, but it was then I heard it. It was at that moment I felt my life was over, as a grizzly appeared on the trail. I backed away in fear, hoping it would not charge, but the bear displayed aggressive behavior, moving towards us. Lucy barked and growled, and it was then I noticed two cubs run off into the tree line. It was then the bear charged. Lucy and I ran back down the trail. I began seeing my entire life flashing before my eyes as I thought this is how I'm going to die. In my panic, however, I forgot my bear spray in my book sack. I hastily pulled it out, and not a second too late, as the bear was closing in. I sprayed it, and the bear stopped in its tracks and sped back in the opposite direction. This experience truly mortified me, and I've never gone camping again. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is that Lucy ran off, and I wasn't able to find her. It was truly the worst day of my life. Have it. Two true camping horror stories. I hope to see you again next time on the Recreant Journals. We'll remember, fear is everything.